Blended workforces are one of the hottest talent strategies today, where employers are using a mix of traditional employees with external resources like independent contractors, coaches, consultants, vendors, and technology solutions, all in order to enhance competitiveness, ensure cost flexibility, and expedite business goals. But how are the successful companies infusing blended workforces into their business strategy? And what are the critical success factors and pitfalls to avoid during implementation? And on the flip side, what does it really take for suppliers to improve their chances of finding and landing contract opportunities? The devil is in the details, my friends. I'm your host, Karen Farrell Rhodes, and it's time to get smarter about blended workforces at work. Hi there, my superstars out there. This is Karen, and welcome to another episode of the Blended Workforces at Work podcast. We are super excited that you've joined us for another fabulous episode, and it's a good one to tune into because, boy, do we have a fantastic guest today. I'm so happy to feature on today's show Ms. Lee Farabaugh. Hopefully I got that right, Farabaugh, who is the co-founder and president of Monarch Professional Services Group. And they are a firm that provides implementation and customer success services for leading financial service, CRM, and software as a solution platforms. I love this because I came from the tech world, so I'm super excited to talk to her about how she helps support their clients. But in her role, Lee oversees operations, service delivery, community relations, business development, sales, strategic account management, and marketing. And with all of those responsibilities, I don't know how she gets up every day because I would be dead tired at the end of the day. But welcome to the show, Lee.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, we're so honored to have you, definitely. I cannot wait to dig into how Monarch kind of supports the blended workforces model for companies because you all are an outsourced provider of a lot of services. So we're talking from the vendor supplier realm today. But before we do that, we always love to learn just a tad about our guests. So just for as much as you feel comfortable, would you mind giving us a sneak peek into your life outside of work?
Yeah. So outside of work, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm actually in a little suburb of Nashville called Franklin. And
Okay.
I have a 10-year-old son. I'm married. We have a
Aw,
10-year-old, and he's very into soccer and science, technology. And we go
nice.
to a lot of soccer games. Sorry, there's a little bug flying around me. We
Oh,
go
you're
to a
good.
lot of soccer games, and my husband and I both love cycling. We do a lot of bike riding
Oh,
outside. So yeah, that's me outside of work.
so you have an active life at work and an active life outside of work as well, it
Yes,
sounds
yes.
like.
And I do have to say, you rattled off all those things I do, but I have an amazing team at Monarch, and I have a really fantastic, I consider him my partner in building this business, a gentleman named Anthony Alexander who runs operations and delivery, and this would not be possible without him. So, every day we get up and work together to make Monarch what it is.
Oh, fantastic. Well, kudos to was it Anthony?
Anthony, yep.
As well for you all's partnership and building and growing the business and actually providing a lot of support for customers that really need the gifts that you all are able to bring. So it's wonderful. So I know I just kind of read off an overview of Monarch, but I really want to bring it to life. So if you don't mind, let's start by sharing just a bit more about what Monarch is and how they service their clients.
Yes. So we work exclusively in the private capital market space. That would be private equity, venture capital, family office, investment bank. And we work specifically with those customers as it relates to their technology. And even more specifically, mostly along their CRM and those types of softwares that they use to run their business. And those types of firms typically use a CRM both for deal flow and for fundraising. And so we are experts in a couple of platforms. One is called Deal Cloud. It's part of the Intap suite of products, Intap Deal Cloud. And the other is Pendo, which is, I call that one Google Analytics for your SaaS platform. It shows you how your customers are using your technology. And we have focused really exclusively on those two platforms, diving in and supporting those customers both at the customer level, like the Deal Cloud and Pendo level, but also their customers, working directly with some of their customers.
Oh, amazing. And those are two separate platforms, right? Or
That's
companies?
correct that they often work in tandem with each
That's what I
other.
was going to ask.
Yeah,
Do they work in tandem together?
they
Because
do.
that's a whole nother world when the technology is not talking to each other, and you're trying to maximize workflows. That could be a challenge, but that's good to hear that they do work well together.
Yep, they
That's
do.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, why did you and your co-partner or workers decide to focus on the financial services and private equity sector? And I'm
Yeah.
curious because with even our company SDL, now we are on the human capital side, but we focus a lot in private equity
Saw that.
back companies as well. So,
Yes,
I
yes.
was just curious. So how did you get into that world? Because it's a
Yeah.
small world, believe it or not.
Yep. So Monarch is actually a part of a larger company. And the reason that we created Monarch was because we've been doing this work really since August of 2018, working with these SaaS platforms that focus on the private capital markets. And the business had just grown so much since that time over the past 6 years. And we realized it was time to really truly focus on this as its own entity, lean into sales, lean into marketing, lean into developing our team, but the origin story is that we're actually a venture backed company. And so our VC came in one day and said, "Hey, could you use your model of services delivery for this other company in my portfolio called Deal Cloud?" And when your VC asks you a question like that, the only answer is yes. So we said,
Yes,
"Yes,
right.
yes, we can do that." And, it was a learning curve. We had to learn because we had been doing software development, and implementation of a SaaS platform is very different than building an application. So we had a little bit to learn about who was the right employee fit, and, what could we truly deliver with excellence. And we had a lot to learn. But we did figure it out. And now we can honestly say we're experts in providing those services related to customer onboarding, implementation, and managed services projects. And so, honestly, some of it was a bit accidental, but it's been an incredible journey for us and a fantastic area to lean into.
That sounds amazing. You're right. When your VC says, "Can you?" You say,
Yep,
"Yes," and then you go back and huddle and see, "Okay, how do we do it?" I know that
exactly. Exactly. Yes, it's like the duck, you're smooth on the
world.
surface and your little feet are just paddling down below to make it work. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about, a particular aspect of blended workforces that people don't hear every day, but it is a common philosophy. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Hereshore philosophy of
Yes.
and sourcing great talent.
Yeah. So Hereshore is this concept that we actually have the registered trademark for that word Hereshore, but we're not
Do
the first
you?
people. Yeah. It's kind of
I've heard of
something.
it before, though.
Yeah, well, we've had it since like 2016 or 17, so we've had it for a while.
Okay.
And we have our little plaque up in our office. We think it's fun. But it's the concept of delivering technology expertise from the US, primarily but not exclusively for US based customers. But the idea that we do all of our work onshore here in the United States. And the concept was born really from this hot US tech market where the rates for US talent in the large metro areas were driving customers to seek offshore talent as a way to curb expenses. And there's definitely a place for offshore talent, and it accomplishes good things. And we're definitely not anti offshore talent. But
Sure.
we also found that there were some areas where being able to work with a US based team was really helpful. A lot of times in the financial markets, especially in banking or in private capital, it's imperative because of security reasons.
Right.
So what we decided to do was go further afield. Okay, it's too expensive in the big cities, but what if we went into some smaller communities and we hired team members there? What we found is that people in these smaller communities are often also highly educated, just like people are in big cities, but they want to have a fulfilling career in the place they call home. So
Yes.
our model allows them to stay in that place, earn a competitive salary, enrich their community, and ultimately, what we're driving towards is them being able to create generational wealth that will benefit their families for years to come. And it's really a win-win because the employee wins, they're making great money, they're where they want to be. The customers win because happy employees stay longer. So our customers can have team members working on their projects for years. And we're happy because our everybody in our ecosystem is happy. Our employees are happy and our customers are happy.
I love that. And I can only imagine that it's improved even more post-pandemic times, right? Because people are or
Yes.
no?
Well, it's interesting you asked that because in some ways the pandemic kind of turned it on its head in
Hmm,
that now, people can work from anywhere.
right.
But a couple of things happened. I think it sent people back to some smaller communities where they had always, felt like, well, I can't have the job I want and stay in this smaller community where I grew up. Now they're saying, well, yes, I can. But also the communities where we're in, when we saw people moving out of big, big cities like San Francisco and New York and Chicago, they weren't moving to cities as small as where we are. They were probably moving to the Charlottes or the Nashvilles.
Boston's or
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So we're in like one of our biggest concentrations of team members is in Huntington, West Virginia. And so that is a really small community, about 50,000 people. So we're in smaller places, I think, that didn't see that big exodus from the large cities.
And are you still able to find the talent with the type of skills that you need even in those small communities? Is it hard to find them?
It's harder, but it's not impossible. It just takes a little more elbow grease and legwork. So we have a couple of ways we do that. One is that we've built really strong partnerships with the higher education organizations in those areas. So, for example, in Huntington, Marshall University, elsewhere in the state is West Virginia University. There's a number of community colleges in West Virginia that are incredibly strong, especially in technology. And so we've just partnered with those organizations. They know that we provide jobs. And so, when new grads are coming out, they let us know, hey, we've
You're
got a
looking
great
for
crop of grads, you should talk to. And then we've been so fortunate in the state of West Virginia. They've been incredibly supportive of us and really invested in us in many ways as much as we've invested in them. And we work together with a nonprofit in West Virginia called Generation West Virginia, and also with the community and technical college system in West Virginia. And we stood up a software development boot camp in Huntington. Now it's
nice.
all virtual. That there's another pandemic turn of events, but it's based on the same curriculum that's used in a very successful boot camp in Nashville, and they gave us an in-kind gift of allowing us to use that curriculum. And so, interestingly, a lot of our Monarch team members come out of that boot camp. They really find that they enjoy technology, but they may not necessarily want to be developers, but they want to work really closely with it. And so,
Right.
all of that put together has created a strong talent pipeline for us.
It's amazing. Well, congratulations on your success thus
Yeah.
far. I'm sure it's going to be supercharged even more in the future, but what a great philosophy to kind of help support economic impact here at home
Yeah.
as well as abroad. So that is such a cool embracement. Well, I'd love to talk to you a little bit also about how Monarch interacts with the clients that you serve as
Yeah.
well. And particularly, especially for my entrepreneurs out there, as well as, just because you did well in, corporate America or, whatever job you had before, if you had a job, before you worked in a smaller firm or what have you, that is on the supplier side of things, it doesn't mean that you instantly know how to interact when you're the supplier vendor side
Right.
versus when if you were working in that company itself. So I'm curious, are there things that you all do to better onboard your team members into a company? And how do you ensure that there are good communications and workflow that are going on between you and the clients that you serve?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's an even more important question today than it ever has been because we're 100% remote. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are also the
Yeah,
same. So, we invest really heavily in employee engagement, and it starts with onboarding, like you just said, in the recruiting and hiring process, in the pre day one process, ensuring that we've got a lot of communication, that they know how excited we are to have them join. And then once they're on board, we follow up with them, you know, at quick succession in their first few weeks. There's training that we've put together for the platforms that we work with. And we also use our customers training. When people start with us, they have a buddy and that they can pretty much ask anything question that they have, they can ask their buddy. I do a
nice.
new hire call once a month for anybody who's joined. We just hop on and we just I give them a little quick overview of Monarch, but they've heard all that. It's more just to get to know you and ask me questions that they might have question about. And then we do monthly town hall meetings, and we're very transparent in terms of how's the company performing? What does revenue look like? Are we hitting our targets? Are we where we want to be in terms of how many team members we have? What kind of deals are in the pipeline? What are we closing? Because I think the more they understand about how the business is truly functioning, the more secure they feel in their
Yeah.
job.
And the more invested they become, it
Yes.
increases their own buy-in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we have regular touch bases with managers. We do all those types of things, that are good best practices. And then with our customers, our team members are working directly with our customers. A lot of times, our customer team, it's really blurry where the Monarch team starts. They sort of feel
Right.
like the Monarch team is part of their company, but then we also want our Monarch team to feel like they're part of Monarch. So that's the
Right.
balance that you have to tread, carefully to make sure that everybody's getting their needs met. The customer really feels like our team is invested, but our team feels like, hey, there's a group that has my back if I need something.
Absolutely. Now, because I'm not as familiar with your niche service, are there any main competitors that do what you're doing with these platforms?
So we honestly like to think of them as partners because it is such a small ecosystem. So within Intapp Deal Cloud and within the larger Intapp ecosystem, there are a number of partners. We're a bit unique in that space because we started out working in-house at Deal Cloud, and we've done over 1,500 projects. I mean, vastly more than anyone else, include
Amazing.
except for Deal Cloud. So we're a bit different of a partner because we started out that way. But there are other Deal Cloud partners that we work together with, whether they may have a question about something that's an area of the business they haven't worked on before, and they want our team to help, or they're short staffed and they need to bring somebody in. So we do work very closely together with the other partners, and we go to the partner meeting once a year and get to know each other better. And so it's a really small world where we are. Yeah.
I bet. I've definitely been. Now, because you're a vendor partner, if you will, for your clients, I'm curious, do you all employ a blended workforces model? Do you ever use contractors or freelancers for any work, or do you mostly focus on your full-time employees?
The majority is full time, the vast majority. We do have a couple of projects where they're not full time projects. So we work with a company where that company provides access for a VC or a PE firm to see metrics across their entire portfolio, all rolled into one dashboard. And
Nice.
that company uses our team to collate and coalesce all of that data that the various portfolio companies send in. I mean, it could be a PowerPoint, it could be an Excel, it could be a PDF. All this data comes in all different ways. And so they use our team to package all that up and get it into the platform. And that is a, probably 20-hour a week job. And we were talking before the podcast started about mom life. So we
Yeah.
have some part-time employees who are moms, and they love this job because it's the information comes in and we have an SLA, but they can pick it up when they have a break in their day. They can work on it first thing in the morning when the kids go off to school. They can work on it in the evening when everyone's in bed. But it's just a great project for that. It's a great fit for that group. So we do that. We definitely support that. And ever since becoming a mom 10 years ago, I definitely know how important it is to have different kinds of options for different people at different stages. Because a lot of times,
Absolutely.
especially moms, they want to stay active, but they don't
Yep.
have 40 hours a week. So I
That
love that we can support that.
Oh, and I love that you do. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, Lee, as a leader of a firm such as Monarch, can you give us a couple of positives on being on the supplier side of the house for companies and maybe a couple of challenges as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
if you don't
Well,
mind?
I think the positives, I mean, our team and myself personally, we love this industry. It is super niche, but we love it. And I think that's one of the reasons that our team is so excited about what they're doing is they really love learning the private capital markets industry. And the private capital markets customer is a high touch customer. They expect you to understand how their business works. And so our team really rises to the occasion to learn how their business works, to treat them the way they expect to be treated. I think that's a really fun and interesting and compelling aspect of what they're doing. And then I think the other thing that's very positive is that while we love for our team members to stay with a customer for a long time, because that's one of the reasons they hire us, we do have flexibility. And we've had a team member go from Deal Cloud to Pendo. And so we've had people, sort of move around as either they gain a new skill or they're ready for something different. So if you're a services company like ours, there's multiple different projects and clients to work on. So I think people really like that too. In terms of the negatives, we're a services provider. So we are dependent on our customer wanting us to do the thing that they've asked us to do. And, if they have a rough quarter or a rough half of the year, we feel that. That's okay. We're in it to win it with them. And we all figure it out and work together. And we have incredible, the teams that we work with, our customer teams are amazing. But that's a hard thing. But I think no matter what you're in, you have to, there's ebbs and flows in the market. So that's just, part of it.
It is. It's definitely. Now, do most of your clients come to you, or do you have an active team that, I know you have a sales team, but do you
Yeah.
have an active team that is sourcing new clients as well, trying to keep more in the pipeline?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting for us because we really focus on these two platforms that we already have, deep relationships with. But Deal Cloud side, our partnership has matured over the past year, I would say, and we're branching out to be able to work directly with some of these customers that use Deal Cloud. And so that would be directly with the PE firm or the family office or the investment bank. And so we do have an active sales and marketing engine that is, sharing our expertise with the world, packaging offerings for these customers, making sure that we're reaching them at the point that where they might need our type of help, and also working really closely with our Deal Cloud team to make sure that we're fitting in the right way, because we don't want to compete. We want to support.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And with you all having such a niche focus, what are some of Monarch's goals and aspirations for the future? I mean, how do you plan for growth when your world is so niche?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think a lot of it is almost like a history lesson. So I mentioned before, our VC comes in, hey, can you do this? And we just got really lucky. We got in working with Deal Cloud early days. So we were the
Yeah.
first partner. And what we've learned is that there is a natural journey that these SaaS companies take from early days to maybe an acquisition to an IPO. And the nature of the partnership changes, how they want us to work with them, how we need to work with them. And so what we have learned is how to ride this wave with them. And so that is, how I see us growing is as our partner, as our customers grow, we grow our team and we grow the different ways we can serve their customer base.
Interesting. Do you think that you will ever expand your niche? Are you committed just to staying in the private equity, if you will, space?
Yeah, I think we're committed to that space. But what is, I think, an opportunity is that these platforms that we work with, they have other integrations, let's say, that they work with other companies. And so we help them integrate other software into theirs. And what's happened before, so we, hope it'll happen again, is those companies look at what we're doing, say for Deal Cloud or Pendo, and they go, wow, you're doing such a great job for them. Why don't you come do that for us? And so we're staying in the same ecosystem, but we're growing our reach, across a broad variety of software platforms that support this private capital markets niche.
Interesting. Now, are most of your clients and business in the US, or is it global?
It's global, actually. So that's kind
Interesting.
of interesting because most of what we serve is US based customers. But for example, we have some team members on the West Coast that support Australia because the time zone is not too far off. The team members are flexible in such a way that then they can support, that audience. But we're definitely, able and open to support any geography that is interested in having us support them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of the plus of having a blended workforce where you can adapt based on time zone locations and the flexibility of when work gets done, having those alternatives helps empower your ability to service your clients versus impede it. And I think
Absolutely.
that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, as one of the leaders of Monarch, what keeps you up at night?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I would say our team, making sure that they're happy, that their questions are answered, that they understand how the business works and how it can work for them. That's something that I think about a lot. And how do I oftentimes am working on the business and they're working in the business. And how do I make sure that everything I'm seeing from where I sit is communicated to them in the most effective way possible? So that, definitely there. And then, I think about our end customers and their market. What are the global economic trends that are affecting their market? We've seen a lot of volatility in the market over the past 4 years, and we've
We
seen,
sure have.
yeah, investment dollars ebbing and flowing, and that affects our customers. So, I think about that too. I can't control the global investment market.
No, you can, but you can keep track of it
That's
and be
right.
agile and be able to try to think about how you can best pivot or adjust if need be.
That's right. That's right. And we can think
Yeah,
about how can we be creative with our customers when they come to us and say, "Okay, we've seen this impact over here, or we need you to pivot with us. How can we bring some interesting ideas to the table that they maybe haven't thought of?" So,
absolutely.
yeah, control
That's
the
amazing.
controllables, right?
That's right. That's all we can do as
That's right.
leaders is control the controllables and yeah, be agile once things get thrown our way, that we didn't see coming.
Yeah.
So well, gosh, Lee, I can't believe it's almost time to wrap up. But before we do this, we always love to ask our guests our signature question. We're all leaders in our own right, no matter what we do, leaders at all levels, I'd like to say. And, I wrote a book about leadership execution and what are the areas that you need to focus on when you're deep in the moment of, of leading or doing what project or initiative that is assigned to you. And so out of the 7 buckets that we write about that came out of our research, you're so kind to share that leading with intellectual horsepower really resonate with you. And for some of my newer listeners out there, leading with the intellectual horsepower is all about using your areas of expertise that you already have, either innate or by years of experience and learning, just to what we call peek around corners, observe trends, and kind of think, maybe even catch opportunities that others miss. It's all about using your own area of expertise to find value in contributing to others. So, curious minds want to know, Lee, why did intellectual horsepower really resonate with you?
Yeah. So here's a fun fact about me. I have an undergraduate degree in fine arts. I studied oil painting,
Oh,
which is
oh,
it's a
interesting.
little random when you think that I work in a software oriented business in private capital markets. You're thinking, what did you learn in fine arts that, would help you there? But I will
Right.
say that I think that gives me an interesting perspective on things to in art and design. We often talk about solving design problems, but that is what the whole world is. Business is just a set of design problems too. And so I
Yes, it
love to think about putting that methodology and a kind of a how might we growth oriented line of thinking around solving these problems. And it could be everything from, how do we handle employee compensation increases in a year where revenues are down, to how do we support a new feature set that our client is rolling out in a novel way. I think that having that design thinking and design problem solving mentality has really been helpful for me personally in that space. And I love this idea of intellectual horsepower because it always says to me that means you're always learning, you're always growing, you're always,
that's right.
picking up new ideas, and you're always listening to other people because they have really interesting perspectives. So that's why that one really spoke to me.
Oh, that really resonated with me, that example that you gave. So, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Well, I know we are wrapped up on time, but we'll definitely have more information about your bio and background in the show notes and links for Monarch and a lot of other things. So I encourage my listeners out there to check the show notes as well. But I always love to give our guests airtime to also share where to find you all. So if someone wanted to learn more about Monarch or you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find us online at Monarch PSG, that stands for Professional Services Group, monarchpsg.io. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Well, Lee, thank you again so much for the gift of your time. It was really fun learning about Monarch and how you're servicing your niche clients, I should say. It is a niche area of the world, but it is very much needed. And this was absolutely a lesson in partnerships, collaboration, and what can be done when the VC says, "Can you do the X?" and you say yes, right?
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you again for joining us on this episode.
Thank you, Karen. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. And thank you to listeners for the gift of your time as well. We know there are literally millions of other podcasts out there, and we don't take your patronage for granted at all. We hope that you continue to follow us every week. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. And all we ask is that you share with just one friend. So by doing so, we can all get smarter about blended workforces at work. Thanks a ton and see you next week. Take care. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you again for listening to the Blended Workforces at Work podcast. You can check out the show notes, additional episodes, bonus resources, and also submit guest recommendations on our website at blendedworkforcesatwork.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or YouTube by searching for the name Karen Rhodes, with Karen being spelled Karan. And if you like the show, the greatest gift you can give would be to subscribe and leave a rating on your favorite podcast platform of choice. This podcast has been a production of Shockingly Different Leadership, a global consultancy which helps organizations execute their people, talent development, and organizational effectiveness initiatives on an on-demand, contract, fractional, or project basis. Huge thanks to the SDL production and editing team for a job well done. Bye for now.